Welcome to another edition of the Gridiron Report. I'm Jarret Johnson, and just back from the spring game, Texas Tech's 2022 red and black spring game, and that wraps this round, the first round of spring football practice under head coach Joey McGuire and his staff. And I think for the most part, it was a good spring ball season. They had a very successful time in terms of recruiting. They had a lot of recruits on campus. Picked up a lot of commits. Right now they have the number one, actually. While I was at the spring game, they vaulted from second to first in the 24/7 Sports Composite National Rankings. Number one recruiting class in the country, Jaden Cofield, a defensive tackle from Manor, Texas, who I along with Steve Wolfong, the director of 24/7 Sports Recruiting, both put in crystal balls for him. I talked to Jaden after he visited last weekend and before coming out for the spring game, and it was pretty obvious that he was feeling what Joey McGuire and Zarnell Fitch and the whole coaching staff and what they're doing out here in Raiderland, and that he was pretty close to committing. So he committed right before the spring game started. That gives the Red Raiders 17 commits for the 2023 class, and so from that standpoint, it's been a very good round of spring ball. There hadn't been a ton of injuries. Now, there was a lot of guys that were held out and were either had surgery or recovering from surgery because Coach McGuire said, he wants them available for fall, not spring. So I think that's really smart. But we did see some good things. We saw some good things in the spring game, and the defense stood out. I mean, that's just the bottom line. They started the game. It was the second snap of the game. Rashad Williams picked off Tyler Shuck, took it to the house. Pick six, just that really set the tone for the whole day. I thought the defensive line really controlled the offensive line. Didn't matter if it was first or second team. No, the third team felt like the offense kind of did some things, but really, what you want to look for is the two deep in the depth chart. Defensive line and the linebackers looked really good, but to me, and Monty Joe and I talked about it in our podcast recapping the spring game. Those safeties, those three safeties playing at the same time, if they can stay healthy, they're really going to anchor this defense, and they can make this defense at least be like a good, solid, competitive defense. They're not going to be world beaters, I don't believe, but I think they're going to be better than what we've seen. I think it's going to be more like what we saw at the end of last season than what we've seen for the last however many years. And those safeties I think you got to start with Rabbit. Dadrian Taylor Dimerson. He was really good almost all year last year. Sometimes he was the only defensive player that played well. He's really good at one of those high safety positions. Very good player. He was a mythical running back in Oklahoma high school prep ball. He was converted to DB when he got to Texas Tech and recruited as such. And he's really developed. I think all three of these guys have a future where they can play NFL ball. Reggie Pearson he was one of Wisconsin's most physical players before some illnesses and injuries really slowed his progress. And then Wisconsin wouldn't clear him, but several doctors cleared him. He was able to come over to Texas Tech. He played well. He played really well in the bowl game. He battled some injuries, but he is a physical player. But he's also, that's not his whole game. I mean, he's a very good covering safety player as well. So those two back there playing your high safety, alternating there between center field and more of a strong safety type, they're really good players. And then you have Marquise Waters, who is a standout at Duke. He's playing the hybrid linebacker safety role. And I know I've mentioned these guys in previous video and in some stories and everything, but once we get to the actual season and Tech's playing meaningful football, these guys are going to be highlighted. So you want to be looking for them going into the season, assuming they're going to be healthy, because all three of them have had, well, not actually, I don't know about Rabbit, but Reggie Pearson and Marquise Waters have suffered injuries in the past. But if they can play together, Waters playing that hybrid role, and he's well suited to that, his body type and his game, the linebacker safety hybrid, and then those two high safeties, Rabbit and Reggie Pearson. I mean, you really have something there. They're going to clean up a lot of mistakes that might be made up front. But you bring back veteran guys, Tony Bradford, Jalen Hutchings, Tyree Wilson coming off the edge. I really like the combination of Robert Wooden, Wilson. Let's see who else. Oh, Josiah Pierre and L.B. Moore, who played well in the spring game. I like those guys. Krishan Merriweather made a couple plays in the spring game. Inside linebacker spot, him and Dimitri Moore are a really good tandem. Tyreek Matthews, one of the backup inside linebackers, looked really good as well. As did Derek Lewis, who had another interception. They both Derek Lewis and Rashad Williams each intercepted Tyler Shuck. One was a pick six early, and then late on a tip ball, Derek was down on the goal line, 4th and 1 from inside the 5, and Derek Lewis came up with a pick. And he almost took it back to the house, but he got caught by one of those fast receivers or running backs. But really big plays. The defense overall came up with 3 turnovers. Marquise Waters, who I mentioned before, recovered a fumble by Donovan Smith it was another 4th down play where it was a fumbled exchange, and Marquise Waters got on it. They had at least one other 4th down stop, 4th and 1, where they stuffed the run. Cameron Valdez, who I like. I think he's going to be a really good running back, young running back. He was stuffed, though, by the defensive line. So all those guys up front are playing well. Like I said, Rashad Williams at corner was really good. Kobe Minor was a guy that stood out to Mighty Joe and I. Him and Brady Boyd, receiver from Minnesota, who transferred in this offseason, was really one of the best matchups to watch. Brady Boyd's going to be a good receiver here at Texas Tech, and he made a couple of nice catches. But Kobe Minor made him earn those catches, and then he deflected a couple, and he almost intercepted Baron Morton on a low pass late in the game. But I think most people want to hear about the quarterbacks, so I'll go ahead and transition to them. Without a doubt, the quarterback who had the best performance in the spring game, and he's had a couple of good scrimmages. Coach McGuire mentioned he was 20 for 24 and played really well in a scrimmage a week or so ago. But was Baron Morton. Baron Morton was easily the best quarterback during the scrimmage. And I think it's really important to point out that it's not like Baron Morton was just going against third team or second team guys. Those guys really were sharing reps against first team and second team, and then sometimes like third team type defensive players. Tyler Shuck, I think, there's no think about it. He had the worst performance out of the 3. 2 turnovers, looked shaky. He was sacked several times. He just, I'm not saying he's not going to start or he's not going to be the guy. I'm not even saying he's not a good quarterback, but he was not good today during the spring game. Donovan Smith was a mixed bag. He had that fumbled exchange with the running back on 4th and 1, but he also threw a 32-yard touchdown pass to Nehemiah Martinez, who he transferred in last year from Air Force, and he's a Lubbock Cooper guy. So you had a friendship quarterback throwing a touchdown pass to a Lubbock Cooper receiver. That was pretty cool. It was a kind of a deep slant, not a post, but it was more of a slant. And Nehemiah caught it in traffic, then broke a tackle from a safety and took it to the house. 32-yard pass was a good throw by Smith. And Smith showed some good things. He really did. So it was kind of a mix. It was like, good things from Smith, bad things from Smith. Shuck, really, really rough performance. And Baron Morton was really good. He showed his legs some. Of course, even just like if they touch or the defensive player gets close, they call it dead. But I think he's really going to be a factor if he plays, which, based on today's performance, he might just win the whole thing. Everybody's been talking about Shuck and Smith. I've been trying to say, whether it be on Sirius Radio, our radio, the radio show I'm on the Rockin' Pregame on 101.1 FM here in Lubbock, anywhere that will listen to me, watch out for Baron Morton, because it's not just a 2-man race. It is a 3-man race, and I think Morton showed that today. He's bigger. He's obviously more comfortable playing at this level after his true freshman season last year. He was a highly rated guy. He's got the quickest release of the 3. I think he's got a lot of moxie. He's probably the best at throwing on the run. So watch out for Baron Morton. Don't be surprised if he's your opening day starter. That's all I'm saying. Because the guy is, and to me, in my mind, out of the 3, he has the highest ceiling, which is weird because he's the smallest of the 3. But I think most people would assume Tyler Shuck because he does have a cannon. But there's a disconnect with Tyler Shuck right now in terms of when the bullets are flying. He's got a defense to contend with. Because if you just watch him throw to receivers, he looks like Johnny U out there, Dan Marino, whatever. He can make all the throws. Guy's a cannon. And he's a very impressive young man when you talk to him. I like Tyler Shuck a lot. But I like all 3 of these quarterbacks when you talk to them. But I think Morton really opened some eyes. Anybody who saw that game today said, wow, he may be the best quarterback right now. He may be our opening day starter. If you're a Texas Tech fan, you got to be saying that to yourself. So, in terms of receivers, J.J. Sparkman, he looks good. He's a big target. Jermaine Bradley didn't really show a lot, but I expect him to have a great season. Miles Price had a catch. Maybe I think he had a run or a couple catches. I expect just a breakout, amazing season from him. Jordan Brown is a guy who came in. He looked good this spring, but it was like, I want to see him in a game situation. Well, he looked really good. He caught a deep pass from Barron, a beautiful pass, like a little seam route. One thing I noticed that was weird, and they got to get this cleaned up, was there were a lot of times where receivers were in the same area. It seemed like they were in the same routes in the same area, and that allowed some DBs to kind of break up some passes. So that's obviously a miscue, and they're going to have to get that handled, or it's going to cost them in games. But they have several months to get that down. I don't normally do this because this is a walk-on guy. He's a transfer. He doesn't really look the part until you watch him play, but he was fast, elusive, and he looked really good, at least against like the third-team defenses. And I want to make sure I get this right, but that is running back Blake Badwell, and he transferred in from SMU. Originally from Amarillo, and he got a lot of opportunities today. He looked really good. I thought all the running backs looked pretty good. Now, the defense really won the day, like I said, and they held the first two running backs, Taj Brooks and Cameron Valdez, in check. And they had some good runs here or there, 4 or 5 yards. And Taj Brooks just looks like an animal. He's going to be amazing if he can stay healthy. He's put on some good weight. He's just as fast. He's going to be a really good running back. And then you have Sir Roderick, who didn't play. Again, you don't need him to play. He always seems to be kind of a little. He's got a lot of wear on the tread there. And he's played a lot of football, so no reason to make him go today. But him and Taj and Cameron Valdez are going to be amazing together. So you got Chadarius Townsend and Xavier White, who have played some running back, who are now Chadarius Townsend's an outside receiver, and actually Xavier White's an inside receiver. So didn't see a whole lot from them. Both coordinators, of course, kept it pretty vanilla. Another thing that got my attention was, and again, there's a lot of guys out along like the offensive line, even the defensive line. So you got to keep that in mind. But that right side of the offensive line continues to be a concern for me. Cole Spencer, I expect to be plugged in at guard. I expect him to probably be your starting right guard. But when DeRuiter, who didn't dial up a lot of blitzes, but when he did, even some little simple twists or stunts, the right side of the offensive line had trouble containing that. So that's just going to be something to watch out for. Somebody's got to emerge and take that right tackle spot. Like I said, Cole Spencer probably at right guard. I feel pretty good about the left side. Weston Wright, Caleb Rogers have both already played a lot of football. And then we're just going to have to see who takes over that center spot. Is it going to be Clayton Franks, who's been there a lot of this spring? Is it Cade Briggs? Is it going to be somebody else? Somebody's got to anchor that offensive line, and somebody's got to claim that right tackle spot. If they do, this team could be very good, especially if they make the right choice of quarterback, which appeared today to be Barrett Morton, but we'll have to see. Trying to think about if there's anybody else. I don't know. Again, the defense looked really good. Weren't a lot of points scored today. I want to mention kicker Trey Wolf. He missed like a long 50 plus, but he made a 56-yarder as well. So I feel pretty good about the kickers. It remains to be seen if him or Gino, new kicker, if he made his kicks too. It'll be interesting to see if they can be as consistent as Jonathan Garibay was, because that's really it. I mean, you want a consistent kicker. Yes, you need a big leg. That helps, as we saw, against Iowa State, with Garibay making that historic 62-yarder against Iowa State. But really, the fact he was so consistent, I think he only missed one field goal in the season, was really what made him so good. So hopefully they find the right guys. Coach McGuire's been saying that the kicker's been very accurate, so I feel pretty good about that. Adrian Fry was the first guy returning punts. He did a solid job at the end of last year. Actually had a couple of nice returns, didn't turn the ball over, I don't believe. So it wasn't as much about not fielding punts, too, as we saw earlier, where they had all that lost yardage. So overall, it was a good day. There was a pretty good crowd. There was a baseball game going on as well, so that they were competing with that. Pretty big series against West Virginia. a doubleheader today as well. So there's a lot going on. Well, look for photo gallery from Stephen Chapman from the game. We already got the podcast posted. Mighty Joe's going to have Jaeger shots, and I'll have recruit reactions this weekend because there was a lot of big time. There's commits. There was several Texas Top 100 guys. There was at least, last I counted, 7 or 8 4-star or higher guys in town. So a lot of big time recruits. Of course, that visitors list is on Inside the Red Raiders as well, and I will have reactions later this weekend. So with that, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.